I'd like to ask you, Mr. President, your decision to invade Iraq has caused the deaths of thousands of Americans and Iraqis, wounds of Americans and Iraqis for a lifetime. Every reason given, publicly at least, has turned out not to be true. My question is, why did you really want to go to war? From the moment you stepped into the White House, from your cabinet, former cabinet officers, intelligent people, and so forth. What was your real reason? You have said it wasn't oil, quest for oil. It hasn't been Israel or anything else. What was it?
Yeah, I think your premise, and all due respect to your question and to you as a lifelong journalist, is that I didn't want war. To assume I wanted war is just flat wrong, Helen. In all due respect. No, hold on. My attitude about the defense of this country changed on September the 11th. When we got attacked, I vowed then and there to use every asset at my disposal to protect the American people. Our foreign policy changed on that day, Helen. We used to think we were secure because of oceans and previous diplomacy. But we realized on September 11, 2001, that killers could destroy innocent life. And I'm never going to forget it. Part of that meant to make sure that we didn't allow people to provide safe haven to an enemy. And that's why I went into Iraq. Hold on.
I think this is the worst press corps in terms of covering national and international news that I have participated in. Everybody with a laptop thinks they're journalists. That's a problem. But the press corps obviously gave up its only weapon, which is skepticism. They played ball. They went along with everything the White House said from even before 9/11. Go into the press room almost day one when President Bush took over, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, from no reason, Saddam Hussein is on the radar screen. You say, what did he do? What is this? What's going on here? And I think that the whole motive was that the neocons certainly had an agenda. The president had an agenda, and that was preemptive war, and he was going into Iraq. And the questions were unbelievable. They were not there. I mean, complicit, the press played ball. After 9/11, they rolled over and played dead. Really, they asked no questions. They all had to be patriotic. It was on television. To ask a question would be unpatriotic, un-American, and so forth. The White House dished out every day for 2 years in the run-up to the war, 9/11, Saddam Hussein, 9/11, Saddam Hussein. Every Sunday, either Cheney or Condoleezza Rice would be on the air. Cheney said, "We know where they are, nuclear weapons." Do you think that Tim Russert called him back and said, "Where are they?" Like 3 years later? Bush said, "We've found the weapons." I mean, all of this, it's unbelievable. Every week, the White House hands out on a silver platter to the networks the people they want on the air to dominate the Sunday news shows, and they go along with it. The news agencies the same way. There were no real reporters, I think, at the White House in this whole period. I do think they're coming out of their coma now, finally, but it's a little late in the game.
What is your assessment of the White House press corps? Has it changed over the decades, and what did you think of the White House press corps that covered all of the press covering President Bush?
I think they lost their guts after 9/11. No one wanted to ask penetrating questions for fear of being called un-American, unpatriotic. And I think their publishers, wherever they are, maybe Wall Street and so forth, were saying, lay off. You know, we're all Americans and we have to stick together no matter what. So I don't think reporters should, I mean, obviously the ideal is to seek the truth, no matter where the chips fall.
I wanted to go back. Helen Thomas, you were born in Kentucky, your parents Lebanese Christians. Your Arab American background, do you think that informs, or how does it inform you're reporting?
Of course. I have a background and an understanding of what's happened in the Middle East that a lot of people don't have because there's been no interest. But why shouldn't background and an understanding of what's happened in the Middle East that a lot of people don't have because there's been no interest? But why shouldn't I project some of my feelings and so forth? I mean, I have that right as an opinion column. But also, I hope I seek justice.
According to the official White House version, it was at this moment in a Florida classroom that Bush learned the second plane had hit the World Trade Center and that the U.S. was under attack. But here's what George Bush himself said almost 3 months later when asked about September 11th.
I was sitting outside the classroom waiting to go in, and I saw an airplane hit the tower of a TV. You know, the TV was obviously on, and I used to fly myself, and I said, well, there's one terrible pilot. And it said it must have been a horrible accident. But I was whisked off there. I didn't have much time to think about it.
Now, wait a minute. George Bush was told about the second plane while he was inside the classroom. So you just heard him describe seeing the first plane crash on television that day. But that's impossible. No one saw the first plane crash on TV on September the 11th because the videotape of it didn't surface until the next day. So how could George Bush have seen what he said he saw?
Stretch. Big stretch. I'm sorry.
Mr. President. I know you said there'll be a time for politics, but you've also said you wanted to change the tone of Washington. Howard Dean recently seemed to muse aloud whether you had advanced knowledge of 9/11. Do you agree or disagree with the RNC that this kind of rhetoric borders on political hate speech?
Yeah. There's time for politics. And, you know, it's time for politics. And it's an absurd insinuation.
In that case, sir, can I follow up on something unrelated?
That is valuable information for those of us who have the responsibility to protect the American people. He told us the operatives have been instructed to ensure that the explosives went off at a point that was high enough to prevent people trapped above from escaping. They want us to leave. That's what they want us to do. And I think the world would be better off if we did leave. If we left the world.
Laden is living in Tehran. Is Osama bin Laden in Tehran?
Your question is laughable.
Why?
The U.S. government has invaded Afghanistan in order to arrest bin Laden. They probably know where bin Laden is. If they don't know where bin Laden is, why did they invade? First, they invaded. Then they tried to find out where he is. Is that logical? Do you think this is logical?
What I think is that you didn't answer my question. Is he in Tehran or not?
Our position is quite clear. Some journalists have said bin Laden is in Iran. These words don't have legal value. Our position towards Afghanistan and against terrorism is quite clear.
Is it true or not?
Maybe you know, but I don't know.
I'm asking you, you're the president of Iran.
I don't know such a thing. You are giving news which is very strange.
Would you expel him? Would you arrest him?
I heard that Osama bin Laden is in Washington, D.C.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. He's there because he was a previous partner of Mr. Bush. They were colleagues, in fact, in the old days. You know that. They worked together. Mr. bin Laden never cooperated with Iran, but he cooperated with Mr. Bush.
I'll ask one more time.
Any comments on Israel? We're asking everybody today. Any comments
Tell them
on
to
Israel?
get the hell out of Palestine.
Ooh. Any better comments than that?
Helen is one.
Remember, these people are occupied, and it's their land, not German, it's not Poland.
So where should they go? What should they do?
They go home.
Where's the home?
Poland.
So the Jews,
Germany.
You think Jews go back to Poland and Germany?
And America and everywhere else.